Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're going to make a kale soup. Usually I do a spinach and tortellini soup, but instead we have kale from our Misfits box. I'm going to replace the spinach from that with our kale. And then I found this cool pasta at Costco and I want to try it out and see if we like it. It was on sale and I want to see if I want to stock up some more. But it's called Italian sausage ravioli. So usually we'd put in some cheese tortellini, but we're going to try this out and see how this tastes. I'm actually going to make this two different ways today. So I'm going to use one side of these for the kale soup, and then this other side I'm going to make like a brown butter and sage and toss it in there and see how we like it. See if it's worth us stocking up on a few of these while they're on sale, so that we can use in different things and for easy go-to recipes. First thing I'm going to do is get my kale stripped and washed, and then we'll chop up an onion. And I already have my water boiling over on the stove, so we'll get it started. Now for the kale, you just want to strip off this woodsy part, and you can slide it just like you would most of your herbs. You can just slide it down. If you want, you can also cut it off. But I'm just pulling a few stalks. We're going to wash it. I use my salad spinner to get a lot of the moisture out after I wash it, if I haven't done all of this ahead of time. We're going to get the rest of it washed and going, and we'll see you in just a second. This is 2 bunches of kale, so it's a lot. But kale shrinks down. Not as much as spinach does, but it still shrinks down. Now, we're probably only using 1 bunch of the kale in the soup. It just depends on how it looks. And finish up this last little bit. Now that our kale's all done, I'm going to rinse off our cutting board. I'm going to chop up an onion that's going to go in the soup. Okay, so I prefer yellow onions over red onions or white onions. Just like the flavor better. I feel like they're milder and sweeter. And that's what works best for us. You can really use whatever type of onion you like. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but we like to get smaller pieces for ours. It ensures the kids are more likely to eat it. My eyes are already starting to water. I've tried putting it in the freezer ahead of time. But that doesn't work for me. And I know some people say you can put it underwater, but I feel like that's going to mess up the flavor. This one's strong. Okay, I'm going to take a minute to clean my face and I'll be right back. Okay, y'all, so I cleaned up my face a little bit. I'm just going to move this over to a bowl. We're going to just coarsely chop up our kale. Now you could also just tear your kale if you like. You just want some smaller pieces so you're not getting those long stringy pieces in your soup. Like I said, we're not using all of this kale, or we most likely won't be using all of this kale for this one recipe. Start. Like I said, just a rough chop is fine. You just want to break up those big pieces. And we'll start with about one full bunch and then kind of go from there. See what it needs. So very easy prep work. I am out of garlic, and usually use garlic in this, but I'm going to use garlic powder. Usually I prefer to use minced garlic, so we'd do that also, but use what you've got and improvise. Make it what you have and what you need. So we're going to move over to the stove. I'm going to drop in one packet. Well, I'm going to go ahead and boil both packets of these raviolis, but we're going to only use about half in the kale soup, and then we're going to do the other half with some brown sage butter. And I mostly want to see how these taste and if that's something we would like to have again. So we're going to do it in 2 different recipes. We're going to toss this in. The cool thing about this is it only takes 4 minutes to cook. So we already have our water boiling, salted. Basically you want it to taste very salty. They say like the ocean water. But I'm going to toss these in for 4 minutes, drain them, and then we'll get started on the base of our soup. See you in a minute. Hey y'all, so our pasta's all done, and this is what it looks like. This is about half of the noodles again. So we just drained them, and I'm using the same pot. I could use a much smaller pot, but we're going to go ahead and use this pot since we've already got it dirtied up. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil. And I'll give y'all a recipe down in the bottom in the comment section, the description section. We're going to get some olive oil in there, let that heat up for just a second. And we're going to soften up our onions, and then we're going to throw in our kale. So again, this is 1 medium yellow onion. If you don't like the texture of onion or actual onion in your soup, then you could always use onion powder. And let that cook for just a minute to start getting it softened up. softens. So what we're using as our broth for the kale soup is, I'm using my chicken base that I like. So I'm going to use about 1/3 to 1/2 of a cup, and we'll pour in about probably like 4 or 8 cups of water. If you don't have the chicken base, or if you want to just use chicken broth from like a can, I think it usually takes me about 4 or 5 cans of chicken broth, which is why I say I love this stuff so much, because it's 1/3 to about 1/2 a cup depending on how much it makes and that consistency of flavoring that I like. And then, like I said, 4 to 5 cans or boxes. It'd probably be about 2 to 3 boxes of the broth to get the same effect. I'm still looking to see if they have a vegetable base kind of like this. I've seen a beef base, but something along the same lines for vegetable, because a vegetable broth I think would be awesome for this. That way you get more of the pork flavoring that's going to be in the ravioli. But use what you got, and this is what I usually use for the spinach soup anyway, so we're going to go with that. But let me know if y'all have heard of a vegetable base. I just think it would lend itself so well to this soup to have those vegetables in it and not take away from the sausage as much. Now, if you wanted to do this and say you have those cheese tortellinis that we usually use for our for our spinach soup, you could use that. I would probably get like a spicy bulk sausage and ground it up and cook it with it to give it some meatiness too. But if you're vegetarian, this is a good option to just go with just the cheese tortellini. Now that our onions are starting to soften, we're going to throw in the kale and let it cook. And start to soften as well. Hopefully this will show y'all, if you have some extra kale or you're wanting to add some extra fiber into your diet, a good way that you'll like the flavoring of it. And it's not like when you're a kid and you have to eat your veggies. Hopefully this will make you want to eat your veggies. And just mixing it around and let that cook for a few minutes. So our kale has cooked down. That's about what one bunch looks like cooked down. We're going to go ahead and add in our seasoning and then our chicken base and build our broth. So we're going to add about a tablespoon of garlic powder. This is a 1/2 tablespoon measuring. Now I'm not adding in any salt right in the beginning, because this chicken base is pretty salty. So I want to see, once it all gets built, how much salt I need. And do about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning also. A heaping tablespoon. Get that mixed. Let's add in our chicken base. So we're going to do about 1/3 of a cup. And then I'm going to add in 8 cups of water to start. A huge measuring. And then we'll go from there. I'll probably end up adding another 8 cups of water in just a few minutes, but we want to see how the flavor is and go from there. I'm going to turn it up to high just to get that water boiling and get it all moving around. So I'm going to go ahead and add in another 8 cups of water. And we're going to let it come to a boil and simmer those flavorings around. And then, let's see, in about 10 minutes we'll check it again and we'll see how everything tastes. If we need to add more chicken base, salt, seasoning, just kind of check it out and see what we need to add to it. Very, very easy. We're just going to let it simmer and develop those flavors. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Hey y'all, so we've been simmering for about 10 minutes. We're going to taste it and see what we need to add. Since we ended up adding some extra water, I do expect that we'll need to add some extra broth and seasoning. But with the amount of kale that was in there, we just didn't have a good kale to liquid ratio. So yeah, so it tastes like we have plenty of Italian seasoning, but we definitely need some more chicken base. Now y'all remember I use this spoon and I taste off of it, but this is all my family, so they can eat it and like it, or eat it and I don't care. But we're going to mix this around. If I was making this to serve to friends or someone else, then I wouldn't do that. But my family, it's okay. They're used to my quirks by now. But we're adding in some more chicken base. And we're going to add in some more garlic powder. We'll probably add in some salt in just a minute as well. Remember I told y'all I was waiting on the salt until the end because I want to make sure we don't over salt it with the chicken base and everything. But this kale is very, very mild, so that's why it seems like there's a lot of seasonings going in, or a large amount of those seasonings we're using. But that kale really needs something to cut through that bitterness. Now let's see. Much better. And I actually don't think we need any salt powder. So we are going to toss in our pasta and I'll show you what it looks like. So after we get this all tossed in, our pasta's already cooked, so it doesn't have to cook any longer. You could let this simmer and let those flavors develop even more, just kind of all meld together. But we're going to plate it up, top it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese, or whatever kind of cheese I might have. I prefer Parmesan, but thinking about it, I think that's on my grocery list for me to pick up this afternoon. So we might top it with just a little bit of mozzarella. So we're going to plate it up and I'll let y'all see what it looks like. Thank y'all for sticking tuned with us, and hopefully, I know someone had asked specifically to see this recipe. Hopefully you enjoy it, and let me know if you make any variations. But give me just a minute and I'll let you see what the final product looks like. Bye y'all.